don't understand why you're 40 years old playing the game still. So.
Well, I mean, what game do you think you're going to be playing when you're 40? When do you think you're going to stop playing games? What's the age? What's the cutoff age?
When you're out of high school and college.
You're a high school kid?
Yeah, I'm in high school. Yeah.
How old are you?
Why does it matter?
Well, I mean, you foresee yourself in the future quitting something you love, like video games? Do you not love video games? You just cruise through it.
I mean, I think it's a little bit of a waste of time when you're that old. But.
Well, how do you know? You're not old yet. I mean, I can think of probably reasons that video games would be a waste of time for a high school kid, too. Do you have a 4.0? Are you in honor classes to get more than a 4.0?
No, but...
You know what I'm saying? There's more things you could be doing to improve your life than playing video games, too, right?
Yeah, you can study and not play games.
Hey, just recreation, man. Having fun. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
All right, then.
And I'm playing Vampire Survivors.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of, well, I don't know what I'm even calling this. I'm just like sitting down and talking with people that are involved in this sort of like GamerGate 2 phenomenon. And I'm trying to get like perspectives outside of like, you know, here's what sucks, here's what's cool, but more like going into a little bit of a deeper dive. So last time I spoke to Aiden Paladin, and she does a lot of like social science research. And we talked at length about, you know, whether or not the claims that are often made by the progressive left in gaming are true. Things like whether or not representation matters. Things like whether or not, you know, like if like someone sees themselves in a game that it's going to make their experience better or that it's actually really important. Of course, we figured that the data says no. And today I wanted to talk to Erwin from NERDWARS. I mean, not his real name. I just learned.
Erwin with an E. God, I'll never forgive you.
I did fix it though. So if you refresh, it should say E. Erwin with an E now. Over at NERDWARS, and you know the reason why I did this is because I saw here's how I found your channel. So the Brutus Rambo thing happened with Sweet Baby Ink Detected, and I was like kind of like just, you know, looking to see what other people's reactions were to it. And that was shortly after I think I actually had Brutus Rambo on my channel to talk to him about it, because I knew if I didn't get him quick, he was going to be hard to schedule with.
He literally escaped his country and fled to Japan.
yeah, exactly. And in that, you know, like a lot of people are saying stuff that it was fine and good, you know, commenting on like what's happening in the culture and stuff. But for me, that wasn't really like deep enough, because I had been doing this already for 10 years. I was part of GamerGate 1. I was one of the first people to get involved with it. And
I was a little shocked when I found out you had some bona fides.
Yeah, I did. Well, thank you. Yeah, I did. You know, what's really funny is, well, I can get into that a little bit later, but I'm probably one of the original doges. And it's so funny that there's going to be a literal doge in the government. And I love it. I love it.
Ron Paul replied to their tweet about getting Ron Paul on. It literally started to bring a tear to my eye.
It's happening, right? It's happening. Well, I want like laser lights behind.
Yeah, it spells out in the Fed right behind me. Yes.
Yeah, right. So when I came across your channel, one of the things that I thought was interesting was that you were talking about the cultural stuff, but you were also bringing in a lot of the political and historical and connecting the dots and everything. And I thought that was really important. So this is why ever since then, I was like, man, I want to talk to Erwin about this. I want to know what it is that you think is like really like sort of crucial in this. And I was watching your live streams, and you guys don't really get into it that much. So first of all, I don't know if this is still something that interests you. Like looking at the sort of political angles on this?
Every stream, I used to do, I pushed the gaming news. I tried to do more of that on Saturday, and then I tried to do more political news on Sunday. But my phone would fill up with like 36 tabs. So, and then after the election, so now it's amazing. I figured out how to sneak where I talk about politics, like for like a large chunk in every stream now, and it's my dream come true. It's amazing.
Exactly.
But
by the way, yeah, go ahead.
It's not just culture war; it's also political war.
Absolutely.
And then once we understand that, then we can talk about how it's also a spiritual war. But this is not the channel for that.
No, it could be, because I'm with you on that. I think that well, actually, that was going to be where I was a little kind of hoping it would go. So, because everybody always says, what's the Andrew Breitbart quote? Politics is downstream from culture. But then the question is, what is culture downstream from?
The media.
Is it from the media?
Yeah, we partly create the culture, but we just choose what the media creates for us. And then also the media pushes a lot of it on us with all their advertising dollars and all their boy bands and such.
That's true, but is what the media creates real? And what I mean is, it obviously exists in the world, but is it something that we are unable to sort of like resist? Like, is it just sort of like predetermined?
Well, in the past, like the media dictated the culture, but now as it decentralizes and we become the media, we're the captain now, and we get to dictate what's going on.
Okay, and what do you think about that? What do you think about that shift?
Well, I talked for like 2 or 3 streams in a row about MSNBC's Morning Joe with Micah Brzezinski, the deep state daughter, and Joe Scarborough, the alleged murderer of his intern. And I've been going after the. Oh, sorry. Oh, he's in New York.
Back up.
He's in New York. No, she had a heart episode in his office, and she fell and hit her head on the desk. All right. Why would you ever suspect any sort of foul play for a New York politician with a dead intern in his office? Right-wing conspiracy. So these two I've been attacking. I got my sights set on them. Just announced yesterday, it was Comcast looking to spin off MSNBC, which means dump MSNBC. So essentially MSNBC just got put in like the dustbin. It got put at the little kids table. So as the post election ad dollars start drying up, they're going to get more and more screwed. Bunch of them are going to lay off. And then once the Christmas ad dollars dry up, like come January, February, the mainstream media is going to have an absolute just reckoning, and they're all going to get fired and sold off, and it's going to be beautiful. Listen, we're finishing the year. You'll appreciate Alyssa Mercante no longer working for Kotaku. She's been on her Twitch and whatnot grifting, and I finally noticed how many paid subscribers she has. She doesn't even have 100. Mm-hmm. We've got this wonderful person named Alec Baldwin's Finger who likes to drop 50 subs, gifty subs a stream. So in 2 streams, we get more support just from one person than Alyssa Mercante can get in an entire freaking month. We are the media. Kneel before us.
Yes. And the thing about that too is I do think that ultimately the reason why we are changing the media space is because, well, it really just comes from authenticity. I don't think that the mainstream media or the legacy media is authentic. I think that it's obviously controlled and it has a specific, set of values that it's trying to force on us. And that's why I think, on this channel, Honey Badger Arcade, I talk mostly about the video game culture and the sort of entertainment sphere. But these things are directly connected to the way that our politics manifests, because it's sort of like determining what we tolerate and like what our values are, or at least is trying to manipulate that. So, for example, what does the mainstream media have to do with the fact that Ukraine just launched rockets into Russia and they're trying to start World War III?
I've started the last 2 streams talking with using my intro to tell people we are in World War III, and none of the Republicans or conservatives are talking about it. But give it a couple of days, and maybe they'll notice we're in World War III. Yeah, I woke up till they finally realize we're in World War III right now. So it's like even they are lagging behind. It's still the actual independent media, which a lot of that, if you knew we were already in World War III, it was probably because of Twitter. Which that itself also huge game changer. Have a social media that's actually on our side, the side of free speech. Which as long as we have a level playing field, we're always going to beat these crazies every time. That's why they have to ban us, censor us, demonetize us.
That is correct. What do you think about a lot of these people going over to this Blue Sky platform?
Bye, Felicia. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Yeah, I actually fully support it. Silo yourself in your little echo chamber. Most of them are going to be back. Forget what tab I pulled up. Someone just returned. Robert De Niro. I don't know, some actor or something. They're all going to come back. They go to these places. They find they're filled with Yahtzees and predators and stuff. And then it gets filled with more of those people, leftists, and then they all just cancel each other. They were getting
They do.
3,000 reports an hour for one of the days and whatnot.
Yes.
So they're gonna realize it's terrible. They called them skeets. Your posts are
Yeah.
called skeets.
I
They're
know.
gonna be back. They're gonna be back.
They're going to be back, right? I thought that Jack Dorsey had learned something. I remember when he got rid of Twitter or sold it, and then after that, he was going, became like a Zen monk or something for a while.
Yeah, and then Crypto Bro. Yeah, he went Zen monk to Crypto Bro.
There you go. Yeah, and so I guess he's back on the wagon again. Or fell off the wagon. I don't know how to describe it. So can we go back a little bit? What's the deal with Morning Joe? I didn't know this, so I want to hear it.
I'll look it up.
And the co-host too.
Let's say he had an intern who had a heart episode, and her head just happened to hit his desk and died in her office.
Yeah,
full-blown deep state. Micah Brzezinski, daughter of Zbigniew Brzezinski. Also, they two are married. Zbigniew Brzezinski is essentially like the Henry Kissinger type, like foreign policy, like deep, like a 1970s deep stater, like OG.
Mhm.
So they are like mouthpiece for the propagandist. And then after the election, they both went to Mar-a-Lago and they kissed Donald's boot. And then they're like, oh, well, we need to moderate or something, even though they've just been calling him, all the worst possible names. And then they go kiss his boot. And then the left absolutely destroy them. And it's hilarious. And then like the next day find out, oh, MSNBC is getting spun off into something. You're all about to get fired.
Really? Oh yeah, they're restructuring.
Yes, that's who employs Rachel Maddow, who gets paid an absurd amount of money. So Rachel Maddow, presumably jobless. Morning Joe, with how much the left currently hates them, good chance they're not going to make it either. But it seems like that's probably why they were doing the boot licking, so they could act like they're more moderate. So hopefully they don't get the axe. Would be my guess.
What do you think about? So there are definitely a lot of people in our media that are also in our government, like CIA, deep state people.
John Brennan, all the people who were the biggest players in the Russia collusion hoax. Every one of them got a job at MSNBC or somewhere else.
Oh yeah, right. A lot of because I didn't know that Scarborough had like a political history. So that's pretty eye opening because I didn't really pay attention to that stuff back then. So what do you think about do you think that, because a lot of people are claiming that Trump is part of this too, and this is like a big, I don't know, like multi-layered 4-dimensional chess thing, and that Trump is also deep state and Elon Musk and all the people Trump is bringing on board. Like, what do you think about that?
It's kind of like reverse Q-tardification, where some people think like he's fully in control of everything. The military's already done all the mass arrest, guys. But then the other side is Donald Trump's actually secretly a plant and it's all along. And no, it's usually stuff is in between, usually a little combination of things. Like Elon Musk, the perfect example. I don't want your brain chips taking over society and putting us into a sci-fi dystopia, buddy. But I was going to refuse to ever call Twitter X, but we just had that election and we actually had a social media that he followed through with what he said. And we were actually allowed to have a First Amendment, say we wanted. And I'm like, all right, buddy, I'll call Twitter X now. Mother Fudger is sending at the same day that NATO is trying to start World War III by shooting missiles. Him and Elon Musk were shooting missiles into space. So it's like, hey, when you do good stuff, I'm going to say good job. And if you start doing bad stuff, I'm going to say, oh, bro. So, yeah, usually things are in the middle. There is vast conspiracy, but it's so much of it is subconscious and done with like a lighter hand. People don't get direct orders on how to do stuff. So sometimes Elon Musk, he loves the Chinese. He's the king of carbon credits with his electric vehicles and what have you. But then he also goes on to be like super duper base. So, I'm not going to throw the billionaire baby out with the bathwater.
I agree. I think that I always allow people the opportunity to change too, right? Because Trump was like,
Trump means well. He isn't actively trying to destroy our lives, where like most of the Democrats are actively trying to destroy our lives.
Yeah, and a lot of the Republicans. Yeah,
correct.
Rhinos, I mean.
Even though he screwed up quite a few things, he's got some allegiances I don't prefer. he doesn't actively hate us and isn't trying to destroy Western civilization. So
right.
compared to most politicians, that makes him a superstar.
Yeah. I think Elon is actually like I think he's experienced some things that may be moving the needle on his own sort of value system. Like when he learned about the whole trans thing, like one of his kids is.
Did you watch the video?
Yeah. Where he said they basically killed my child, right?
Powerful.
He bought into that, and I mean, I don't know. I think that if there's one thing that can like set like that can make a significant change, a fundamental change on a man in particular, is if something happens to one of his children and that he feels like betrayed essentially by this ideology. So I think that transing his kid probably woke him up. I don't want to say that that's a good thing, but it did. I think that it may have had a place, a part in that.
They took his Babylon Bee away. They took the autistic billionaire's funny like site, the thing that makes him go ha 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 while he's on the internet, and then he spent $46 billion or $45 billion or whatever. That
was it. That was the last straw, right?
But as far as his kid goes, what's like, we don't care about like. So many people don't care. Oh, woke's ruining everything. But then when their IP gets destroyed by woke, then all of a sudden they're like, oh. So always talk about people need the slap in the face. I usually refer to it as a punch in the face because, well, some people can get away with the slap. Some people need punch in the face, but it has to affect you personally. It's the whole like not in my backyard situation where like people are like, oh, this is fine or I don't care. But then as soon as it affects them, it's like, oh no, get this out of here. So yeah, someone like Elon, when that happens to his kid, that's a slap in the face. And then global lockdowns was an absolute we got all turned into punching bags for 2 years. And that woke up so many people. So a lot of this, in the really worst stuff they do, ends up just backfiring in the end and waking up more people.
Yeah, for sure. Somebody in the chat, hi guys in the chat, could you guys hit like for me, by the way? And this is Erwin of NERDWARS. Please go subscribe to his channel. It's great. I love the deep dives and the tinfoil hat stuff is a lot of fun. The live streams are good too, but I usually don't have the time to watch them. But like, there you go. Give him a share for that, and give us a hello and say hello to my dog Jojo. I know you can't see him, Erwin, but he's got his own little window, as well as Vivian, who I am not wearing right now as a skin suit. Anyway, so you said that. And we'll get into cultural stuff in a little bit but I do think there's a connection. Obviously, there is, because it's about, again.
That's why I joined the culture, because I originally came from politics, and then I saw everyone in the culture war, but a lot of people weren't fully understanding what was being done to them because they didn't understand the politics side of it. So that's why I wanted to come over and join the culture war, so I could wake up my nerds to the political side, so they could better understand. Because if you're only just focused on the one thing, you're not understanding the big picture. Things aren't going to be making sense for you. You gotta, and I get everyone just wants to play their video games and have a good time and not worry about the real world. But then the real world, if you do that, the real world comes in and destroys all the stuff you love. So
and that's what's happening. That's exactly right. That's what's happening now. That's why I agree 100%. You got to take a step outside of the thing that you're trying to protect to see where all of this stuff is coming from. And it's not just, your video games, your movies, your cartoons, your comic books, your anime, your music. It's also, your taxes, like where are they going? It's also what's going on in the world. It's your family, it's your community, it's your medicine, it's your food, it's everything, right? And it's all being affected by this. The environment or the environmental activism, all of that is affecting the things that you love. So, as they say, you may not be interested in politics, but politics is interested in you. Very interested in you. So,
and if we don't save our culture, like the next generations aren't gonna have culture. So we have all these amazing things that shaped us when we were young, but if we get all lost in those and just want to focus on that, then there's not going to be any other generations going to enjoy like amazing IPs with heroes that inspire them to do great things. So stop being so narcissistic and selfish. The next generations deserve to have awesome culture. We got to take a little step back and save that culture.
Yeah, exactly.
The culture, so much of it is already destroyed. So it's like, just stop. Watch a little less Netflix and help fight back. Just a little in your own little way.
It doesn't take much. You can just go on Twitter and dunk on some libs for a while. You know, but just basically, you know, this election is causing the left. I'm just going to call them the left. The left is losing their minds because they thought that they controlled reality. They thought that their version of the way things are was the truth, and this was out of, like, they're all shocked. Like, they did not see it coming because they were convinced in their own bubble that this was the reality. And when people said, no, we're not going to let you destroy this country, you know, by opening up the border, and just because women want to kill their babies, that was the only thing they had. They stepped up, and in particular, men stepped up. In particular, because I think, yeah,
I just got this USA Today article. Gen Z voters were the biggest disappointment of the election. Why did we fail? So it's just like with Latinos, all the people they lost, instead of being like, oh, God, all right, sorry, we're going to focus on you guys and win back your support. Instead, they said, Hispanics, you're all racist machismos, and Gen Z, we all hate you now. You're
guilty
dead.
as charged. I guess I am. Yep. I should light up my cigar. But no, it's Gen Z men in particular, because there have been studies that are showing over time that Gen Z women and women in general are moving really far left, and Gen Z men have moved slightly to the right. And Gen Z men are the ones being blamed, just like Latino men, black men. It's funny about black men. Black men are suddenly not black anymore. They're just men because they lost their black card. Sorry, guys, black guys out there. You can't say the N-word anymore because you've lost it. So Master Goa says in the coming, look at some comments here before I move on. They did control reality, but this is why culture is important. GG culture pushed back. Yes, that's right. And I was there from the beginning. When this thing started in 2013, I was talking about it, and I was telling people, because they were like, look, this is just about ethics and journalism. And I was like, no, this is more than that. The problem with the ethical issues that you guys have with journalists is their ideological issues. And we have to fight the ideology because it's based in lies. Otherwise, they're just going to find more ethical ways to lie to us. They're just going to work around it. And that's what they did. Like that. That's why the whole ethics thing was I think it was a cucked argument. So.
Yeah, it's because it's just so much deeper than that. But then they want to say, oh, well, it's just this one little thing. So you just stop there. And then they keep go down that slippery slope. And so much of it is about understanding that it's not just like games journalists. Some of them are a little crazy and woke, or some of the people in indie games are a little crazy. It's a whole global movement of brainwashed crazies. It's a global propaganda machine, absolutely just destroying these people's thought processes until they literally become NPCs. And so it's not just ethics and journalism.
No, obviously no. But people want to pretend as though that there is like, this is a war of two sides, and that somewhere there is room for both of these things to coexist, and everybody would be happy. And that's like the centrist position, and I hate it because it's like
you can't coexist with the left. It's like coexisting with Islam. It's not possible. It's inherently not possible.
Yes, right. So you get it. Okay, you get it. Thank God, because I'm just so irritated with that. Art Force says the ethics thing was a symptom. That's true. Zerank said earlier, Anna Kasparian. You know Anna Kasparian? You know who that is?
Cenk Uygur. We're now like, wait, I agree with Cenk Uygur. Yeah, even the Young Turks are coming around to sanity.
Yeah, to some degree. I think Cenk Uygur might be in the because there's a number of progressives that are angry about the election, but they're coming from this position that the Democrats did not go far left enough. And that's why they lost. So that
versus the Bill Maher's or the Morning Joes, where it's like, oh guys, come on, we need to moderate, right? Without acknowledging they're way too far gone to get them to come back. Like there's no chance.
That's true. Did you hear this thing about the woke like dying or ending, that people have been saying, oh, the woke is dead now because we won the election? Do you think that that's true?
All right, so I've been trying to like let people enjoy their celebrations and the dunking and owning on the libs and drinking those liberal tears and such. But then World War III started, and it took 2 days for all of them to notice. So I'm sorry, guys, but your celebration time is over. We need to get back to what's going on. And yeah, it's time to focus up.
Yeah. Well, I always thought of the election victory not as like the end of the story, roll credits, but actually as it's the beginning, right? So now, because everything up until this point was us trying to get our foot in the door so that we can repair the damage, right? But we needed to get our foot in the door to do that. And now that again, still nothing is done until the inauguration happens and he's in there. So we're not there yet. Like, they're still in charge for a while.
The ship is turning. They're shooting intercontinental ballistic missiles at it. So the ship is turning, but we're gonna have to dodge some missiles, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
And currently, the left are super defeated, and it feels amazing. But by inauguration time, they're going to be back at like summer of love levels of fervor, probably.
Well, they tried that already. They tried it with the Daniel Penny case. You know about that, right?
Yeah, New York subway guy.
Yeah, the New York subway guy. That they're trying to make that George Floyd 2.0 so they can justify the chaos. And if they do the chaos under the Trump administration, they'll blame Trump for the chaos. This is all like obvious what they're going to do, in my opinion. Anyway,
they're starting World War III, so that way when he ends it, they say he's a Russian agent. Give him everything they want. Yeah, they're setting up. Like, God, this is gonna. Even if he gets every one of his appointments in, this is gonna be so tough, guys. And so like what happened in Seattle. All the crazies, they try to do their rioting, maybe start their chest chop up again, and the Seattle police shut them down immediately. So I don't think they're going to be able to get away with that sort of thing, that sort of summer of love fervor. But they are going to be as fired up as those times, so they're going to have to find other things to do, and they love resorting to terrorism sort of stuff. So they're going to have to ramp things up, and all they do is double down. So they're going to have to ramp things up, and then if he starts like deporting criminals, they're going to go full virtue signal. Like, you thought AOC crying at an empty parking lot was performative. They're going to go easy, guys. So
yeah, they are.
We gotta prepare, and even if we do get a bunch of good people in charge, we still got a crazy ass bureaucracy, and we got a big fight ahead of us, guys.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let's wind the celebrations down a bit.
Well, I mean, it's okay to continue, but just remain vigilant is what I say. Now it's time for us to roll up our sleeves and get to work. Once, exactly. Yeah, I have a sleeveless. I mean, I have short sleeves, but yeah, we're ready to roll up our sleeves and fight, because that's what it's going to be. Unfortunately, these people don't learn. They have no humility. Very, very rarely do they say, maybe I was wrong. That's like,
Well, that's where we get because the original question is like, is woke over or not? Because Trump won. So they only know how to double down. So quite a few of them are going to double down. That's all they know how to do. They're going to go even crazier. But the problem with like Hollywood is it's so doomed. They've lost so much money. Everyone is fleeing Hollywood to go like the UK or Georgia, and they're just doomed.
Georgia?
Atlanta, yeah. So and Canada, but apparently most of them are just straight up going to the UK now. So hopefully a lot of our celebrities, we can just make them the UK's problem. So some of them are going to chill out on the wokeness, not because they're chilling out on the ideology, just because financially they just can't afford to do it anymore. So much of what led to all the wokeness was all the free money, 0% interest rates, and like good economy and whatnot. That's why they were able to get away with it. That's not there anymore. So there will be some changes, but only because they're forced to. And then the ones who aren't quite as forced to are they're probably gonna double down. And then some, like Disney, they're not gonna be able to afford to double down, and they're still gonna quadruple down anyways. So we need to make them more themselves. We need to make them more afraid of our money than of the crazy left's threats.
There you go. Yep. Just make them go broke. Yeah, I heard Ellen DeGeneres ran to the UK most recently. But here's the thing, though, what I noticed. So when Trump won, there was a tonal shift in the left in the way that they responded to this. They're terrified. And not just like the celebrities and the journalists and stuff, but the people on YouTube, the bread tubers, the Twitch streamers. I watched a video yesterday of this. He was a really big atheist content creator named Dark Matter 2525, and he was like always making these cartoons about, you know, how stupid the Bible is and whatnot. And he made a video trying to speak to men. This is what the left is doing now. They're trying to figure out why have we lost. Like David Hogg just put out a thing saying,
what color was his nail polish?
Yeah, I know. Well, but he's using this sort of like almost stereotype of what he thinks masculinity is to appeal to men, which is, you know, just what the Democrats were doing, right? When they're like, I'm a man, you know, that video. But I think they're really afraid. And in particular, I think the Hollywood celebs, the politicians, the journalists are afraid, because I think that there's a reason why Ellen DeGeneres ran to another country. And it kind of reminds me of, what's his name? The director that was married
Roman
to
Polanski.
Yeah, Roman Polanski. Yes, exactly. Roman Polanski. Why did he leave the country? I think that's the reason. I think that like when they start dismantling again, if assuming they get to do all the things they want to do, I'm expecting that once they start dismantling everything and sort of like revealing, like, you know, we're still waiting on that Epstein client list. We're still waiting on the Diddy list. I don't know if we're gonna get it.
I don't
but
think so.
Why do you not think we're gonna get it?
I've been in this game for a while.
That's why I'm asking.
Had a lot of promises made to me, and very, 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 very few of them get kept. So I'm just trying to stay a little more realistic and pragmatic on that one. I get why people would think it's going to happen, but
well, I'm not saying it's going to happen. Yeah,
oh,
the
well,
deep
yeah.
state is deep. Yeah, but I suspect it's why people are leaving the country. That's what I suspect, or at least one of the reasons.
Like if they were leaving to the UK, like it's probably production's being cheaper. But I don't know if Ellen's doing anything. She's gonna go find some British people, British employees to harass, or allegedly.
Yeah, but I mean, how is the UK doing right now?
I have something for that. 1 second.
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly.
Self-defense machete.
I understand they banned those. You better get a self-defense spoon, a two-handed spoon. So let's see what the guys in the chat are saying. Master Goa says, what people don't realize is that Russia and China are standing against the liberal world order. People are told they are evil because the globalists can't have global governance while other powers exist.
True, but also doesn't mean they are good guys. We suck, and we basically force them to create bricks and stuff like that. We are forcing them into World War III. We definitely suck more, but that doesn't mean they don't also suck. Especially China. Yeah. But no,
Yeah.
Russia should be our ally. They are way more like us. They have got so many resources. Us teaming up, we dominate the world. I mean, we wouldn't have to worry about like China, but our Western elite want global communism, so they had to push them into each other's arms. They had to send our manufacturing base to China and whatnot. They purposely set it up. So yeah, they want the conflict because they think they're going to come out on top. I don't think they're going to come out on top, but we can't let the world order run by Russia and China doesn't sound much better than run by the Western Empire.
The European Union or Davos or whatever. Yeah, I don't want that either. Master Goa says Trump wants America to be free of the globalist control, just as China and Russia are. If Trump can remove America from the liberal world order, then it's game over for the globalists. I know that Trump calls them globalists, so he does have a name for what he perceives to be the enemy. But go ahead.
Oh well, that's what they're called. In China, if you're a Christian, you have to replace Jesus with Xi Jinping, and then the 10 Commandments get replaced with Mao Zedong quotes.
Yeah.
So you can say you're fighting the globalists all you want, but yeah.
Well then, yeah, but then okay. I mean, I agree with that. Like we've had conversations with John on the Weekend Culture show. We've talked a little bit about whether or not it is good to support Chinese video games because the Chinese video games are non-woke, but the Chinese government is investing in the DEI program. So they're kind of like using the state, their own government, to influence the quality of Western games so that we buy Chinese games. And so it's like, well, what's the good idea here? Do we support China, or do we like avoid both Western games and Chinese games? Do you have a thought on that?
We had the same debate, and I still don't really have an answer, because it's like when the Chi-Coms are being less crazy leftist than the Western game devs, then it's like you don't really have an option but to turn to them if you want AAA games. Personally, I turn to currently playing Vampire Survivors new DLC, and let's see, I got that Neva game that was in like the Game Awards, like Game of the Year. People are like, "What's this?"
Yeah.
And I realized that's the follow-up to Gris, which is really, like the most beautiful game I've ever freaking played. So I'm super hyped to play that, even though that's like allegedly woke. It also made it in the Impact Awards. So I partly bought it just to see how woke it is, because I doubt it is, because it's probably not even gonna have a single line of dialogue in it. But oh no, the main character is a black woman, which I mean, I don't really care all that much.
Well, it depends on how it's implemented. I mean, like one of my favorite games to play with my wife is Resident Evil 5, and Sheva is a black woman, and she's like one of my favorite characters from the Resident Evil franchise, honestly. But Lindsay, my wife Lindsay, plays her all the time. So
is that the Resident Evil in Africa where you shoot the no-no zombies?
Yeah, which is funny because like half the zombies are not even African, like they're not black African. They're like guys with mustaches, like look like they're Indian or something, and then there's like white dudes that you have to assume are South African. So
you need to give them asylum in Europe instead. How dare you kill those zombies?
Yeah, right. Put them on boats. Send them to the UK.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I was playing, I talked about before the show, is Tricky Madness, indie game inspired by like SSX Tricky, 1080, and all that. Freaking loving it. So that's my solution. Should we buy the Chinese games or not? My answer to that is just play indie games instead.
I do play indie games, but I do think that it might not be that bad to buy some of the top Chinese games just to show the West that they need to step up, like just enough to show that the West needs to step up, because I don't know. There's something about China locking me out of great content by doing that I dislike. So
do you read comics or manga?
I haven't read any manga in a while. The only one I read is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but
manga success didn't make them actually finally start making good comics again. They just started making manga of their IPs and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
So it's like the idea. I mean, I like in Prince and theoretically the idea that buying the Chinese games would get them the West to make better games. But manga has shown it's no. That's not gonna happen.
No, that's true. But I mean, I guess like it again.
But
I don't know.
Voting with your dollar is good. I say make them more afraid of our money than the less threats.
Yeah, exactly.
So I totally get the argument. My answer would be the only way to win is not to play. Go buy indie games instead.
I'm with that. And there's plenty of really good smaller titles. I like the AA games. Like I'm playing Warhammer Space Marine.
I played one for the first time like a month ago.
Oh, I own the first one. It's a great game. The first one is still really holds up. I've been doing streams on this channel of like older games. Like I played these are well, not really old, but like PS3 era and PS2 era. So
I don't know if I'd call those old games.
Yeah, my guy I play with, he's a game developer that worked in the industry for many years, but he was kind of pushed out. And that's another thing we could talk a little bit about, because this is another area where the political kind of gets into the cultural. But because
cancel culture fully 100% political.
Yeah, fully 100% political, and it comes out of the Me Too movement. And this guy, I don't know if he was affected by this, but I believe that. And I've been meaning to get him on the show. Grums reached out to me once because I got banned off a Discord server because literally because my icon, like my little icon is Vivian James. And the person who was the community manager on this Discord server knew who Vivian James was and said that and I also put for pronouns because they have pronouns on Discord. I don't know if you guys know. So I put fuck/off, and they said you either change your pronouns or you're off this server, and you have to explain yourself with that. And I said, okay, well I'll just take them off or whatever, because I mean I wanted to use that server just to ask questions because I do DMing for my friends back home in Chicago, and they even though they asked me to do it and I did all that, they permanently banned me from the server. And so after that, I posted a video about it, and Grums reached out to me and he asked me some questions. And I've been wanting to get him on because I know he used to work at Blizzard, and I think that what happened at Blizzard was the Me Too movement. I know that because we reported on it a while ago, that there were complaints that it was a frat boy culture there, and there were all these like kind of jokes about. Yeah, go ahead.
The whole idea that some girl had like sex pictures shared between the staff, and then they were at a retreat and she herself. I saw everyone was saying that's what happened, and that's why they changed like McCree's name to Cassidy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Was that ever even true? Was there any corroboration?
No, I don't think there was.
Happened.
No,
I feel like
never saw any evidence of that. Yeah, totally. I didn't see any evidence of it. So as far as I'm concerned, yeah, it's totally made up.
The Cosby Suite picture is literally the only evidence I've seen of any of this stuff.
Yeah, but even then, it's like, well, maybe they're just making jokes. Like again, when Blizzard was mostly just like these guys that were friends that knew each other, they probably had like that kind of sense of humor because that's the way guys are. And they created an environment where they were producing really great games like Warcraft and Diablo and all that. And then their company got bigger, and I don't know what the order of it is, but I know Activision bought them. And then there were these allegations, and a bunch of people at Blizzard got fired. And Blizzard has not been the same ever since. It used to be a studio that produced nothing but hits. Right?
Have you seen the trailer for the new Overwatch hero?
Yeah, I forget his name. It's
Hazard.
Yeah.
So I'm like, because they have the diversity inclusion tool or whatever it is to create characters, to make sure the characters are all diverse, which means we want to make not white male characters our main demographic. So they've had 10 extra characters added or something like that, and one of them has been a white man, and of course he was crazy, also a tank. And we finally get another white man. I'm like, all right, this is weird. What's going on? Immediately, he has SJW post-apocalyptic Mad Max here.
Oh, yeah,
that's what I'm getting to. He's full-blown a ripoff of Cyberpunk Edge Runners. If you read he looks like it. And then the comic they just released, he is 100% just stolen from Edge Runners. And then in the trailer for it, they also steal a bunch of Arcane stuff. So it's a terrible dead company saying, we're screwed. Everyone hates us. We have terrible Steam rating. No one plays our game anymore. So bad we're adding our 6 vs 6 back in because our 5 vs 5 was such a failure. So I forget where I was going on there. So I'll just go back to.
We're talking about the character Hazard is the character of Hazard, because we're looking at what happened to Blizzard.
Yeah. So we got the SJW looking character. At least he's a white male. He's like Irish, Scottish or something like
Scottish,
that.
Yeah.
Yes. So he is surrounded by the SJWs. A Kimball Lair type with septum piercing, of course, and then their robots are called Omnics, and they're usually got like a big head, and then they got like really skinny bodies, like a bigger chest, but like their arms are just like two little like
skeletons.
Yeah, kind of like Terminator-esque-ish. Now they have a body positivity Omnic. I've never once seen a fat Omnic that isn't like a big tank like thing. A straight up body positive Omnic with like tattoos all over her.
Yeah, the rose tattoos. Yeah.
Safe to say it's non-binary. And so it's got
robots are by definition binary. So.
Yeah, I know, right? So it's kind of got like the metal part here, and then there's a little metal part here where there's a little opening right here.
Yeah.
So it has a gigantic, like bigger than a bowl nose ring.
Oh, that's right. It does have a nose ring. Yeah, it does.
Now, it doesn't just have a nose ring. It's like probably if you took it out, it's probably that big of a nose ring.
Yeah, I could look it up, but I believe I saw the trailer for it. And my wife and we used to play Overwatch like a lot. Like we played it every day. And she'd be like, "You want to play Overwatch?" Yeah, a PS4 as well. She would be like, "You want to play Overwatch?" She's like, "Yeah, let's do it." And I would play McCree, and he was my main on that.
Cassidy.
I know McCree. That's his name. So,
did she play support?
She played Mercy at first.
That was like the woman knew her role, and she went straight to Mercy.
She did. She played Mercy at first to learn the game, but over time, I think she got into Anna, who's another support character.
Anna and Moore remains right
and
here.
Zendaya or Zendaya, not Zendaya.
Zenyatta.
Zarya, the big woman with the pink hair and
who somehow they haven't canonically said is a lesbian, despite clearly being a lesbian.
And only if you're looking up the porn. That's but
Sombra definitely on the list as well.
Yeah, Sombra has the haircut. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, we played it religiously until those things happened. I think when McCree changed his name, I said, I'm not playing this game anymore. And when they made Soldier 76 gay,
that's what did it for me, because like I was just talking about, you know, they got the diversity tool just to make sure there aren't like straight white men. You have like Mr. America straight white male, like toxic male high T character. So instead of making
the voice actor for that guy was like a legendary voice actor from 80s cartoons too. I forget his name, but
instead of making one of the clearly gay characters gay so you could get your like virtue signal, they took the toxic masculine guy and said, oh, here in this little backstory thing, there's a picture of him with his boyfriend. He's totes gay.
Yep. I got a super chat from Albert Nader Retro. Thank you, Albert, for $2. And he says, Nerd Wars, nice setup behind you. That's $2 Canadian, which is like $1.50 or something. Thank you, though. Sorry about your country. Catwoman. Nice. I have you know what? It's not here, but I have, oh no, if you can, like, I can show you. Let me see if it's
whip it
visible.
out.
No, on the, so behind me there's
I want a Galactus, but they're also expensive or super cheap kids toys.
And right over here is Batgirl. She's sitting on a bat signal. It's the Bruce Timm one. And this is Fin Fang Foom. I don't know if you go with Fin Fang Foom from the comics, but he was a great character. And that's just a teal deer, because teal deer is a friend of mine as well. But anyway, yeah, I don't want to get up and go back there because it's a little far away. But okay, so oh shit! Thank you for the super chat. I was going to mention something else, and now I've lost it.
We were on Overwatch.
Yeah.
And how Mercy is made for girls.
Oh yeah, for women. Yeah, right.
And LGBTQ.
Well, so my wife was into her. She admits that it was like some really basic shit, but
despite it being made specifically for women LGBTQs to play, Mercy super hot, all the skins, never made her a lesbian or whatever thing. So they know
well, she's white, so
they know how to give fan service. Then they keep giving it to Mercy, but they'll only give the fan service to the women LGBTQs. If we have Mr. Masculine Soldier 76, like for one of the skins was him like in like grilling gear, like he was like the backyard suburban dad, like grilling skin.
Yep. He had an apron and everything. I loved it. I thought it was hilarious.
Straight white men can't have anything nice, but all the LGBTQs get to have like simp over Mercy. Or Life Weaver pansexual. They were everything. He's a dreamboat. He's so large. They always do like the love bombing with that, where they always say like, "Oh, the character's so hot. I love the design so much."
Yeah. That's. I wasn't playing when they released that character. I think the last hero.
Me neither.
I was a while ago. I don't really remember. But
Overwatch and Destiny were my like long-term games I played. Both of them absolutely just cornholed by wokeness.
Oh, that's too bad. I did play a bit of Destiny. I wish I got into it more before it got cornholed, but I was kind of into it for a little while. So, but yeah, I was talking about that because I'm bringing up like how I think that the Me Too movement was used to get men fired and put women in those positions, or LGBTQ people if they fit the description. Another example of this happened in the animation industry big time. So there was this so basically if you worked at, on Nickelodeon or various other animation studios, like the people who were involved with Steven Universe, I don't know if I'm saying something you don't recognize, just let me know. But Steven Universe, Over the Garden Wall, I think it's called, the Ninja Turtles, Ben 10, whatever it was, all these cartoons. And I know a guy, his name is Luke, and he's an animator from Australia. He worked on Bluey, but I know he worked on like Ninja Turtles and Ben 10 and Steven Universe and all these really great cartoons. And he is very talented, and now he can't find work. Like, I mean, I talk to him every so often. I check in on him. He was driving an Uber for a living, Is he what?
Is he too male, pale, and stale, or they're just not enough
Yeah,
projects?
he's too male. No, he's too male, pale, and stale. He's too. That's what I think. I mean, they never tell you directly, because. But the thing is that like the environment he worked at, I think he was working at the studio that produced Steven Universe or one of these other shows that it looks a lot like Adventure Time, something like that. And the guy who ran the studio, the people who worked there, they had a certain kind of environment they wanted to promote. Like it was basically like they were all friends, they did stuff together, and they probably like, you know, engaged in relations. And Luke was just the type of guy that wanted to come in, do his work, and go home. And because he wasn't playing nice, they saw him as a kind of like, you know, like he was like harshing their mellow. And then they didn't
like this Sigma Wolf just going around doing his own thing.
They didn't like that, right? And then there was this letter that was put out, and this is where it gets interesting, because there was a letter, an open letter that was signed by a whole bunch of women in animation, and it was like a big letter of complaint towards the animation industry as a whole. And the idea was that it was not a comfortable environment for women to work. And one of the people who signed it was Rebecca Sugar, who is the creator of Steven Universe, like her own show that is extremely popular, probably made her filthy rich. And she was signing off on a letter. Yes, I do get harassment. And what's really interesting is that there's a union organization called Women in Animation. You can look this up. And they have a specific goal, or they did at the time, of having the entire animation industry be 50% women at every level, right? By a certain time. I think it was by 2030 or something like that, or 2025. And so they were involved in this. And what I think happened, I reported on this years ago, is that they
Sarkeesian grift.
Yeah, it is. They just got a bunch of men fired. Yeah, and Anita does that. You know, she works in the industry now. You know, a lot of people say, oh, her feminist frequency channel has been shut down, so she's over. No, she's working at Naughty Dog. She does consulting for all these big game developers. And a lot of people like Kim Belair, they see the writing on the wall, they jump on the bandwagon. So even though we can kind of like hurt their sales, it doesn't make them disappear. They just go into hiding, they rename themselves, they rebrand themselves, and they come back, right?
Correct. Do you think so? I assume, like with all the indie games being made, I assume there's more games than ever coming out. But AAA, are they taking enough hits where like Hollywood, people are having trouble getting jobs? Because like when you're male, pale, and stale, you can't get a job. But now like in Hollywood, there aren't productions, like things aren't being made to even get hired on. Is AAA gaming finally starting to hurt, or are they still full steam ahead, throwing millions of dollars?
Well, I think that AAA gaming companies don't know any other way except to double down, like you said. They're going to do what they're going to do. Like Ubisoft, I don't think they're going to survive this release of Assassin's Creed Shadows. I think that's going to do a tremendous harm. And there was another game, another big AAA game put out by a studio that's also seeing like bad numbers, even though they're lying about it. Like Alan Wake 2. Apparently not doing that well.
BioWare, Veilguard.
Veilguard, that was it. Yeah, the Veilguard was the one that has really underwhelming sales, especially because here's the thing, they spend so much money making these games. That's why the AAA or quadruple A space is dying, because they spend so much on making the game. If they don't like match that in sales, then yeah, that's basically going to be taking a hit. So
it sounds like then they're going to be catching up to Hollywood. And if you're male, pale, and stale with an industry that's shrinking or cutting costs and whatnot, might have to find a new industry or create your own indie studio.
Yeah,
which a lot of people are doing.
And I think that there are people making new content. So we can go back to comic books for a second. It is a low bar for entry to like create new comics.
I would like to make a comic book. Yes.
Yeah. What do you have, and what's your idea?
Oh, I was like 1984, Fahrenheit 451, all the classic sci-fi dystopias. Love them, can't get enough. So I would love to do a comic that's in that style, but it's in like the World Economic Forum wants to create the Eat the Bug. So like what they would want to put us in like 2050, have it set in like that world. And then the initial idea I wrote during lockdowns, it just kind of came out of me. I called it non-essential, a love story. So just gonna probably base it off something like that, just as a way to wake people up through entertainment, but not go full like messaging politics. Because the trick, like, you can get political messaging in when your political messaging is like freedom and morality and stuff like that, because those are like universal like virtues and lessons. So a lot of that, you know, fighting the man, the system, and stuff like that. So do my best to use entertainment to wake people up, similar like what I did in the last documentary, where I actually wanted to wake people up to the global agenda, but I put a lot of memes and like entertainment stuff in there so people could have fun and entertained, and then kind of slip a little politics in there.
I got another super chat from Albernator Retro. He says, best thing about Overwatch was Studio Foe. I'm not sure what that is, but thank you for the $2 Canadian or $1.50 American.
I'm assuming that's whoever made all the corn hub videos of Overwatch. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
I had no idea, but yeah, maybe. Everybody's making corn of that, right?
So I wanted to bring up, because you talk about how throwing like their own company on the bus in animation. In the comic side of things, they circulated like a letter or a petition thing, making everyone sign saying that they wouldn't sexually harass each other and like in the comics industry. So they're so like morally depraved, they have to sign a piece of paper to say they're not going to harass each other.
But they're still going to get reported, because that's the thing. It's just like Blue Sky. No matter like how well behaved you think you are, you know, you're basically I always bring up this thought that I don't know that people consider. When GamerGate was going on back in the day, there were all these like male feminists, right? And they were all basically like shaming gamers and calling them chuds and whatever we used to call chuds. I don't think it was chuds, but sexist, misogynist, whatever. And then those guys would end up in trouble because they were inappropriate with women. Like, it would always happen, right? It was like, we had this meme. It was like Idris Elba from Pacific Rim saying, reset the clock. And that was every time that came out.
Hollywood was the one who created the Me Too movement, and they were the ones doing the harassing.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they went from being the perpetrators to being like the victim heroes.
Yes, they totally tried to turn it around. That was like one of the first that I brought that up too when Me Too started, and I said, why is it they're basically turning their targets onto like regular men that are just doing jobs in regular spaces. They're the ones that are participating in it. They're the degenerates, right? But the other thing I wanted to mention that I try to bring up is to get people to think about this reset the clock thing that was going on. It's not just that, say, male feminist types use this kind of virtue signaling around caring about women as a way to get closer to women, because it is a tactic, and I know a lot of these guys do it, but it's also the women that are more sensitive to any attention being perceived as predatory. Like, women that are feminists see men as more of a threat than women who are not. And so they're going to be more likely to levy accusations. And feminist men and women are more likely to just believe women when they do it. So you're going to get more instances of this, right? And it's going to be like easier to destroy people's lives.
That plus fear of rejection is why we have a negative birth rate. Why people aren't getting married or being in relationships anymore.
That's right.
The men are afraid of getting rejected. The women are like, this predator is hitting on me.
Yeah. Well, the men are not just afraid of being, they're not just afraid of being rejected, though. They are afraid of losing their job, getting arrested, like getting into serious trouble for approaching a woman awkwardly or whatever. Right?
And if it's not the workplace or a bar, where the hell are you supposed to approach a woman?
Yep, exactly.
And you get rid of those, and then bam, negative birth rate.
So, Xeranx gives us $10 and says, AAA Gaming doesn't take hits. Thank you, Xeranx. Really appreciate it. AAA Gaming doesn't take hits because of development time. Releases BW games. What's a BW? I'm not sure what that stands for. Releases BW games is long enough that they can weather the storm for a bit. However, it will be a beautiful implosion to witness when bills are due. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that the problem with AAA Gaming is that they focus on the wrong things. They spend too much money on the wrong things. And that's why AA Gaming is actually peak in my view. If you want something that's somewhat like, technologically advanced and not trying too hard to be like retro, because I think sometimes that, I don't know, it annoys me.
$20 games are
$20
just
games.
that sweet spot.
They're yeah, that's right. And then they're not paying for like, professional Hollywood actors. Because that's another thing too, is that Hollywood and gaming, they're trying to like cross-pollinate. and they're trying to put like, oh, look, this game has this famous person in it, and therefore this is supposed to make the game more valid. It just makes the game more expensive. And they're also trying to take voice actors from games and turn them into celebrities as well. So like they're, you know, like these Matt Mercer types, these guys that do voice acting in video games are like, oh, he's a celeb now.
Well, I mean, what he did with Critical Role is actually super impressive. He fully made himself, so I will give him credit.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Now
Well, I'm talking about the culture of that changed it, and I think that is kind of like we do that now. You know, you say you were playing Space Marine 1. You know who does the voice of the main character in that? It's
Nolan North.
no, not Nolan North. It's he's an actor. He was in like, did you ever see The Kingsman? He was like or how about the Green Lantern movie? Do you remember the Green Lantern movie with Ryan Reynolds? He played Sinestro. Mark Strong, yes. Yeah, Mark Strong. Yeah, that's his name. Yeah, he was the voice of the bald guy. He was the voice of the Space Marine. I thought that was great though. I liked him in Sherlock Holmes, and you know, now I think for the sequel they got a different guy. They got a guy that was in Vikings, that show Vikings. I think he was doing the voice. So
it's a little ridiculous to pay so much money for voice acting when like voice actors themselves do like impressions and can sound like the actual person. That's literally their job, is to be able to change their voice to sound like how you want it to. Hire them instead of the person you got to pay a ton of money for, and they're just going to sound slightly different. And
absolutely.
Like normal acting and voice acting are definitely different things. And some actors are also really good voice actors. Some not quite.
Yeah, for sure. Anime, sub or dub?
Sorry, you cut out there. I couldn't hear anything. Next question.
You don't want to answer that? Okay.
I just say when I'm watching anime, I like to watch anime instead of look at the bottom of the screen and just reading the whole time. I like seeing all the anime. So
you prefer the dub because of that?
I can't start. You're breaking up. I'm going through a tunnel. Sorry.
I prefer sub, but I can read subtitles very fast. So
you shouldn't have to.
And a lot of times in anime, there isn't a lot going on the screen. Like this, just the mouth moving, you know. Master Goa gives us $5. Thank you, Master Goa. We've been propagandized since we were little. Yes, at least in the old days. The propaganda was fun. Government issue Joe is still watchable with future kin. Government issue Joe is still watchable with future kin. Oh, you mean the old days? You mean? Well, what? Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Like even when we were evil imperialist American empire, like we were trying to build up America, whereas now they are actively trying to destroy America. So like I'll take some fervent like nationalism, imperialism over actively destroying us, so a foreign nation can take over the world instead. Yep.
$2 Canadian again from Albert Nada. Thank you for the $1.50. Send NERDWARS my vid on the movie North Country. It's a movie with I never saw it, but I guess it's got Charlize Theron, and she basically like sexually assaults people on the set or something. It's I mean, like women can do that though in movies, and it is Hollywood. It's Hollywood. But what generation are you from? Or
millennial, like, baby.
You're a millennial. Okay, all right. I'm an X, Generation X. So Gen X, I think we had peak culture. That's just my opinion. Like the 80s.
That's such a Gen X opinion as well.
Yeah, it is. I know.
Everything sucks. Nothing matters, but also we're the best.
I think the millennials had a good run in the 90s. I think the 90s was great. My wife is a millennial, so
yeah, 90s was that perfect little balance. Because 80s was good because it was so over the top, and then we kind of settled down a little bit in the 90s.
Did we?
Once all the cocaine wore off.
Yeah, right. Master Goa says G.I. Joe is still good. It's propaganda you wouldn't mind showing your kids. I loved G.I. Joe when I was a kid. That's a quintessentially Generation X thing, is G.I. Joe and Transformers.
I'll take like pro-American propaganda sounds a lot better than pro-China propaganda.
Yeah, right.
If I'm having to choose between propagandas, that is.
Okay, so let me see. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. But yeah, I was just talking about how these things got into our cultural institutions, but things are starting to change. So in the where it is easiest to get in, it would be like writing books or creating comic books. It's a low bar of entry. A lot of people are doing it. I know that, there's a guy I know, John Delarose. He's a friend of the channel, and I've been on his shows. He runs the website Fandom Pulse. And Jonathan Trent, who runs That Park Place. I've had them both on my show as guests. Formerly That Park Place. He works at Fandom Pulse now, right?
He's Fandom Pulse, yeah.
Yeah, but that's because Park Place has decided to focus on amusement parks.
I
That's what it was before.
I assume there was a little bit of drama in the background.
There's probably more. Well, what happened to Bounding into Comics? Bounding into Comics got bought out by a Chinese company, I think. So unfortunately, it ain't what it used to be. So maybe Fandom Pulse might be the only thing that's left right now. I don't know. What are some other websites?
We have such a vacuum. Like, step up. Yeah, we step up and do it. There's so little out there. Yeah, and YouTubers need like the news source material so they can do their videos.
Yeah. Back when GamerGate was going on, we had Niche Gamer and was it Tech Raptor? Those were the two non-woke journalist sites.
I did not know Niche Gamer was such an OG. Yeah,
at the time. Yeah, back in the I still do sometimes, but back in 2014, when we were looking for ethical options for journalists, we couldn't trust any of the mainstream things: IGN, Kotaku, Rock Paper Shotgun, Destructoid, whatever. So we were mainly following Tech Raptor because they were being fair to us, and Niche Gamer. And I don't know if they're still around or whatever. I don't watch them as much or look at them as much. Oh, One Angry Gamer. Thank you, Master Goa. That's right. That was another one. One Angry Gamer. Are those guys still around? I don't know. But yeah, things have changed. So as far as the
we almost don't even need them anymore. Well, we still need them for certain reasons, but like Twitter. I used to make fun of people getting all their news off of social media, but Twitter is actually a pretty decent place to get news these days. You just have to make sure you check the comments because there's a good chance you're getting fake news on something. But other than that,
right. No, I use X. I use X for my news mostly. So when I follow, Grums and Smash JT. He's also doing pretty good work.
We don't have to go to websites for the news anymore. We can just go to people for the news.
Yes,
which is a lot better.
Do you think that? Why do you think that's a lot better?
To get news from individuals rather than mega corporations beholden to their advertisers?
Well, I mean, I don't know if a website like Smash JT is a mega corporation, but is it a person?
So you mean person versus That Park Place? Like a
website, yeah.
Well, Smash JT also has a really good website as well.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's same thing. Yeah. I mean, the people running the small websites are basically a small team or individual, which, yeah. As far as I'm concerned, same thing. And it's a lot better. Authenticity. Even if you do get a little fake news, they're not doing it to you on purpose. I believe they're actively trying, Smash JT is actively trying to give me the news, whereas MSNBC is actively trying to spin the news to me. So yeah, even if, and the accuracy is just so much better than mainstream media. It's even if we get some things wrong, the little guy gets some things wrong.
And they're usually, they get it earlier too.
Yeah, well, it's like the Rachel Zegler video going around. Everyone's like, oh, she's apologizing for her Trump comments, but it's actually from a year and a half ago. I fake newsed on it. My nerdy home Steph, she immediately fact checked me on it. So it's so we do actually fact, unlike the mainstream media, the smaller people, we actually get fact checked. And it's us doing the fact checking.
Yeah. And you have the, let's say, the humility to say, oh, I was wrong. Let me correct that. Right. Yeah, that's also important.
Community Notes on Twitter at first was a little, but Community Notes does a pretty decent job of being fact checking. Mm-hmm. It sounds a lot better than how the EU, where everyone wants Elon to just full blown have a crackdown squad, just absolutely go destroy everyone. How about instead of that, we have free speech and we just let the community do community notes to fact check stuff. So it might not be perfect, but it's a hell of a lot better than the elite want us to do to protect us from disinformation and misinformation.
Exactly. So all right, I know that you can't stay for that much longer, so I thought I would pivot to what you said earlier that kind of piqued my interest, which is that this is ultimately a spiritual battle. So a spiritual war, and I think this is true. So I spoke to one of my favorite guests I ever had on was Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson,
No
I don't know if
way!
you- Oh yeah.
The most
Yeah.
racist things I've ever heard about black
Beta!
people were said by that man.
Yeah, no. So I had Jesse Lee Peterson on, and he's been like banging the drum on this for as long as he's been making content on YouTube. And by the way, I think
A
that
long
like
time,
making,
right?
oh yeah,
He's an
a
OG.
long time. He's a super OG, and he always says this is a spiritual battle. So I wanted to get like your, I guess, interpretation of that case, because I do think you're right. I think this is ultimately a spiritual battle, moral battle.
I like talking about the fourth turning. You want to understand what we're going through. We've been through it before. It's the cycles of civilization. We have the good times. We have the bad times. There's the whole, what strong men create like good societies, which creates
times.
weak men and all that. Yeah, that whole thing. It's that. So usually it's like wars, destroying everything, or economic collapses is the bad times, and the good, that everything gets so bad, basically we turn to God, we start praying again, we become better people, more unified, and then we start making things better. So one of the ways to think about that cycle is materialism versus spiritualism. We have things are too good, and then we have like the excesses of the Roman Empire, followed by the collapse of the Roman
Tower
Empire.
of Babel, Sodom and Gomorrah, like we have that, right? Yeah.
We lose everything, and when you have nothing, what do people normally do when you hit rock bottom? You turn to God. That brings people together. They have their find Jesus moment, and then that starts making them be actual moral people, because we get those guardrails on society again. But then eventually, because of that, things get better, but then they get so good we forget about it and why we put those guardrails up in the first place. And then we go all decadent and degenerate and start chopping kids' balls off, sacrificing children. And then eventually that all falls, and then we lose everything and turn to God again. Cycles of civilization. It's not just going to be us in the culture war and the politics fighting. We can't win this without the spiritual fight. And it's not just, obviously Christians are a big part of that, but I am very spiritual, and I was raised Catholic, but not Christian. It's all of us who have that higher belief, that we believe in morality for higher reasons. People who are driven by a higher spirit, we are incredibly important to this, because we have not hit rock bottom yet, guys. And when we do, everyone's gonna be turning to Jesus. And when that happens, we need the Christians to be as based as possible. And they are going to play a very big role in us getting this back together.
Yeah. Are you, you said you're very spiritual, but you're not like, you say you were raised Catholic, but you're not.
Metaphysics, all sorts of, fun stuff, aliens, and I like going down all the rabbit holes.
Oh, I love the, what is it? I think of it like the enchantment of the unknown. That's one of the reasons why the mystery. Yeah, that's one of the things that I like about, because I do think that we have obviously, like, we're really, really into materialism at this stage, and that is disenchanting everything, so that everything is simply defined as, as let's say soullessly as possible, and it's being reflected in our art. So you talked about the new Overwatch hero, and I watched the and I watched the trailer for it, and I was like, this is soulless. Or some of these games, like Horizon, for example. I know that they, it has great graphics, but ultimately there's nothing there. It's just kind of hollow, and that is something I've talked about with Dean, who's like the game developer, and John. We've talked about that. So yeah, I think that there needs to be a reacquaintance with the mysterious infinite that is beyond ourselves, if that makes sense.
Well, that gets into beauty as well, and the commies have to destroy beauty. That's why we can't have attractive women in games and stuff like that anymore. That's why all of our buildings, all our architecture is so ugly and like dystopian.
And our art.
Beauty makes us go upwards. They don't want Elon Musk and Trump shooting missiles up into space. They want to be exchanging nuclear missiles. They have to destroy. That's all they can do. The only way they can get us to go along with all their crazy plans is to destroy everything. So there's no alternative but to go along with their crazy sci-fi dystopian system. And the way they do that is by crushing our wills, as Yuri Bezmenov would call it, demoralization. And the best way to demoralize is
normalization. Yes, that's right. That's right. That's why, like, I always say to people not to get black pilled, because that's what they want. Like, no matter how bad things are, There's stuff happening that we're not aware of, and that are moving in the world, and that we should. I wouldn't say like be like naively optimistic, but just be prepared.
Look at your shirt. That Black Swan event on your shirt could have been the darkest day in our history. Instead, it possibly won him the election. That changed the freaking timeline from something incredibly dark to something incredibly positive. Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you think that you were talking about these cycles? Do you think that we've already been through some? Like, are these like in our lifetime? Yeah. I mean, just in your lifetime?
Yeah. So when we hit rock bottom is the fourth turning. So like that's the book. It's called The Fourth Turning. I brought this up the other day. Like Tony Robbins does a really good interview with the gentleman, and he was talking about he found out about the authors from their first book, Generations. He found out about it from Bill Clinton. So whether or not you want to believe in the cycles of civilization, our social engineers and elite do believe in the cycles of civilization, and they know in the fourth turning, if we can get past all their evil and all their schemes for us, we are going to finally like humanity evolve, essentially get rid of these scumbags. They know this is their breaking point moment where either they're going to send us down into the depths of hell or we're going to throw off their shackles. So they're going to throw freaking everything at us. They're trying to put that stick in the spokes of these cycles of civilization to try to stop them. But we woke up way too fast, and way too many of us, and they pushed too far, causing more of us to wake up. Yeah, screwed. We're gonna win. Do you
remember that? Did you ever see the interview on this YouTube channel called Diary of a CEO with the this guy from Davos? He's like not Klaus Schwab, but the guy right underneath him, skinny dude. Ferrari? Yeah, the one who was like, we can be like gods. Like that was.
He has a comic. I always talk about all the commie-ass comic books in the used section of the used bookstore. I don't know if it's there anymore, but yeah, one of his comic books was in there, and it was all about how
there was an interview. I shared a clip on my channel, but there was an interview with that he was doing with a guy, and the host of the Diary of a CEO show said, like what's going to happen to your plans if Trump gets in office, because they were talking about, and this was before the election happened, but it was like earlier this year, and he said, they think it's a real danger, and if it happens, then our plans are over, because people can't essentially try to make the case that, it's people think that nationalism and globalism are like, a zero-sum game, which they are, but they don't want you to know that. But he basically said if Trump gets in, their plans are shot, and that they're not going to be able to accomplish what they're. And I think it's definitely a setback. I don't know, but this is like, I think that the plan was, Biden gets to be in a second term, because they didn't plan on him like losing his mental faculties, and then like them having to substitute Kamala, who basically has like no skills at all. Like she's just weak. Yeah, right. But everybody else was in position. Keir Starmer, or Keir Stalin, as I like to call him, all the folks of the European Union, Justin Trudeau, like they were all in position for this to come, and they were all buddies with these people at the WEF, right? So Trump is just the monkey wrench to end all monkey wrenches in those plans, and it's affecting everybody. Like we know that they're trying to start World War III, but I guarantee, and I know this is probably happening, the moment Trump got in office, he started making phone calls, and he was like talking to world leaders. That's like
Putin. Why? No concern. He hasn't come out and said something about this. I like, that you're shooting missiles into space and stuff, but come on, buddy, let's go ahead and not have World War III.
I think it's like, he's got to bring the temperature down. But I think that he can work something out with Putin.
The Republicans are going on about like Nancy Mace putting like biological over the women's restroom to try to keep the new member out. Yeah. It's like, I normally support that, guys, but let's go ahead and solve World War III first, and then we can dunk on the
priorities, people. I get it, right? You don't like the troons in your bathroom, but it doesn't matter if there's no bathroom. So
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I want everyone to be able to just play their video games and have fun. But if there's a nuclear winter, you're not going to be able to play all your nerd stuff. I'm sorry. So let's make sure we don't have nuclear winter, so we keep playing some nerds.
There you go. I got another super chat from Albert Data Retro for $2 Canadian again. He says, by the way, this video was demonetized yesterday. He's talking about his video. Thank you for that. And I wanted to, two more questions and then I'm done, okay? So one, What do you think about Russia? Okay, so my wife is actually very sympathetic to Russia because we are somewhat recently converted Orthodox Christians, and she saw what happened in the Ukraine. So if you guys don't know this, but Zelensky's government made the Orthodox Church illegal, which is it's
opposite political parties illegal as well. Not that it matters. He doesn't hold elections anymore.
Yeah, right. But he made the Orthodox Church illegal, and he claimed that it was Russian, essentially a form of Russian, involvement. And so he banned that church and replaced it with a state church, which sounds awfully Chinese. When Tucker Carlson went and visited Russia, he talked about like what he saw and experienced there. And there's the reason why I'm bringing this up, I want to get your thoughts on this, is because Russia is being sort of like characterized as though it's still the Soviet Union. And there's some and we know it's not the Soviet Union anymore, but it's still being presented that way. And they're sort of like using this old Cold War language to sort of like get Americans on board with this proxy war, which has basically become like a full-on boots on the ground war with Russia on behalf of the US and NATO. So what I wanted you to ask you is Putin the bad guy? I'm not saying he's a nice guy.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is someone's like, oh, all the evil globalists doesn't like this person, that means they're perfect in every single way. No, I think that he, like Trump, doesn't actively hate his people and want to destroy them. Is he perfect? Absolutely not. Does he have some history? Absolutely. Is Russia corrupt? Obviously. Is Ukraine and America corrupt? Absolutely. But he doesn't seem to actively be trying to destroy his own people. But then we push him into the arms of China and North Korea and whatnot. So it's like, we should be friends and make money with each other instead of starting World War III. That is my stance. And that seems to be Trump's like pragmatic stance is, how about we benefit each other instead of destroying the world? Does that mean Trump's perfect? Does that mean Putin's perfect? Absolutely not. But it is hell of a lot better than nuclear winter.
Yes. Outdated retro. No, I agree. That's what I think. I think that like the thing about Russia is I don't know anything about it because Putin controls their media. So we're not going to get like a really objective perspective on that country's culture.
Russia Today actually pretty based and gives good news. Not so much about their domestic situations.
Exactly. And on top of that, the only other source we got is whatever the legacy media has to say, and I can't trust them like at all. So like I don't know.
I trust Russia Today more than our media.
Yeah, right. There you go. Okay, Albert Nader Retro gives us $5 Canadian again and says, no, I mean this interview, Brian. None of my vids are monetized. By the way, don't forget to put fresh bedding and water in Lindsay's cage. Thank you. I will. I take care of my bird. But okay, the last thing I wanted to mention, just as like a little bit of a plug, is I think you might find it interesting. So, have you ever played Cyberpunk 2077?
I liked it better before they fixed it.
You liked it, but did you play it though?
Yes, and it was amazing, bugs and all. When you're hiding it like behind the glass wall, while like killing his dad, the CEO or whatever.
Oh,
one of my favorite moments in gaming.
Yeah. Well, I want to bring it up. I do like Cyberpunk 2077. I'm actually playing it again right now. But the reason why I want to bring it up is I think it might be an example of. So I know the CD Projekt Red. They're pretty woke over there. They're pretty progressive, right? We already know that they have like non-binary people working in their offices. They're gonna kill the Witcher.
Menstruation leave, correct?
Yeah, menstruation. I think so. But I think that there's. So the reason why I want to bring this up is because I think Cyberpunk 2077 is actually a good example of a game that has things in it that are progressive, but it makes sense considering the setting, right? Because it is dystopian and you are literally eating locust pizza, like bug pizza. And there's, people that are constantly getting, sexual gratification from BD porn or sex robots or whatever. So it is like giving you an honest window of where we could go.
all that
right?
degenerate stuff in sci-fi, like it's supposed to say, hey, that's bad, let's not do that.
Yeah, but I think
then
that's
it's
what's
good. But yeah, no, you're
yeah.
right. Somewhere like
It-
Cyberpunk is similar to like Arcane, where you know you get like the pink-haired lesbian, whatever, and it's like my people are like, oh, wokest thing ever, it's terrible. But I'm like, that is where some like slight bit of progressivism, that's where like the pink hair, that's where that diversity and stuff belongs. Whereas when they try to do like 1700s like England, when they do a TV show like that and they put like half the cast as black, it's like that's diversity does not belong there. Like, you should not have progressivism there. But it's something like Cyberpunk Edge, like in Edge Runners or something like that, it makes more sense. It's an appropriate place for it to be. My stance with like Gamergate is, and all the super woke stuff in gaming is that belongs in indie games. If you're making indie games, we're going to laugh at you, but it makes sense. When you're making AAA games for a general audience, though, do not put anything like that whatsoever. You're insane. So there's appropriate places for it. But now they've screwed everything up. Now we're saying we want absolutely zero of it. We used to be able to do strong women and we were happy about it. Ghost of Yote, you can go back to the kitchen beat.
Yeah. Well, no, but what
I'm tired.
Yeah, what I want to add to that though is I think it's not just that it makes sense, but it's actually more fitting that Cyberpunk has all of these kind of like elements from of things in our real world that are sort of like being pushed in. It's basically taking it to its logical conclusion, and it is dystopian. So whether they believe in it or not, they're presenting a dystopian future of eating synthetic meats and like bugs, and you know, and everyone's like no one values human life. Right, you know what I'm saying? Like everything is like, and it was literally the subtitle of the cyberpunk genre is high tech, low life. So it's basically like, yes, we're advanced technologically, but as people, we are like, you know, no better than animals because we're still like subject to our base instincts.
And somewhere like that or Arcane is a great place to tell stories about class struggle. But when they want to talk about class struggle and all that going out for the rich and what nowadays, they do it so poorly with no subtlety. What's the Fair Games where the S is $1? Where it's we're gonna go rob all the rich people. That's their idea of like talking about class struggle.
you played the Cyberpunk game. It doesn't even actually try to make the communist arguments like that. It like there's like a bit where you know you get Johnny Silverhand played by Keanu Reeves. And he's like, you have conversations with him. And even and I think he's kind of like a twisted version of the moral center of the game. Like he's the guy that, you know, you're sort of bouncing your ideas off of. And even he is saying something like, what is wrong with our society is spiritual. Like he says that. There's also a side quest. Remember the side quest where the guy wants to get crucified on TV? I don't know if you, there's like a side quest, right? It's all about that. And that's actually what the game is really about. And I think that's a really good example of they're progressives sometimes because they're trying to like inject their surface level stuff into things. If they're still focused on a kind of universal truth, then the universal truth comes out whether they intended it or not. Another example of this would be They Live. So the movie They Live by John Carpenter, if you look at interviews, he was trying to say something about Reaganomics in the 80s. And that was what the whole movie was about. And at the time, people probably didn't quite get it. But today, it's more relevant than ever, just not for the reasons that he would have said, right? And I think that's because this is why I admire John Carpenter regardless, is that he approached this in a universal fashion. What is the saying? What do I want to say about the human condition in this story? And that's what he put out there. And that's what we need more of, right?
I watched Rambo in The Wrong Generation and realized he was the bad guy, and no one was happy about that. Different generations view things differently, which is why it's good where I'm talking about how I want to put some, you know, politics into my comic book. I'm going to keep it more universal truths and whatnot because that stuff is timeless. All their non-binary kunaris are not freaking timeless, and we're going to look back on this period with horror. Like when they do lobotomies and like electroshock therapy and all that stuff, we're gonna look back at this even worse than that.
Yeah, for sure.
We're gonna wish we were sticking leeches on kids. All we were doing was sticking leeches on kids.
Exactly. I brought this up too. We're gonna see a lot of self deletions, and people are gonna be like, "Why is this happening?" It's going to be
actually,
horrifying.
A quick point is, so you're talking about cyberpunk. The whole thing is not having no spirituality. Sci-fi dystopia is the epitome of materialism,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it's such a good like vehicle to tell a story about that and complain about materialism. Where if like Disney or Marvel tries to do a critique of materialism, it's just going to come off so cringe and out of touch.
Yeah, there's a great book I want to recommend called Boobs of Steel, and it was written by a couple friends of mine, Jay Ishiro and Kat Rocha. I had them on my show once to talk about it. They go into because they're writers too, and they go into the whole thing about how the science fiction writing, literature, sort of I don't know, community or industry.
They're crazy
they were seriously like writers. Gatekeeping people out, and it was like guys like Isaac Asimov and whatnot. They only wanted to put out dystopian sci-fi, and I think that
predictive programming, Arthur C. Clarke, a lot of the classic sci-fi people, they knew what was going on because they were told, like Orwell, Huxley, they knew the plans.
Yeah, exactly. They weren't writing fiction. They were telling you what is their
Huxley's
plans are.
brother ran the UN's eugenics program. Orwell got woke up because he fought with the commies in the Spanish Civil War, and then he found out what the commies actually wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well,
so that's what I want to do with my comic. Is we know what the WEF wants to do to us, so I want to write the version of what they want to do to us, like in 1984 Fahrenheit 451 style.
That's sounds like a good idea. I look forward to your book. I'll definitely support it and get other people to.
Sounds good.
So Xeranx gave us $5 and says they don't do strong women, they do strong trans women with better physical conversion tech /science/magic. Yeah, ultimately. Speaking of that, Ranma 1/2. Have you ever seen Ranma 1/2? Do you know about that anime? It's old.
No.
So Ranma 1/2 was an old anime manga. It's basically a romantic, kind of romantic comedy thing with martial arts. And it was the baseline of the story is there's a martial arts kid named Ranma Saotome. He falls into a cursed pool, and from that point on,
as anime characters do.
Yeah. And from that point on, whenever he's doused with cold water, he turns into a girl because he's actually cursed with the spirit of a girl that's in it. And then when he gets doused with warm water, he turns back to a boy. Now, the point of this is not the trans thing at all. It's supposed to be used for humorous, like for humorous hijinks. Like there's a lot of other characters that also transform when doused with hot or cold water. Like his father turns to a giant panda bear, and there's a girl who turns to a cat, and so on. His rival turns to a little bitty piglet, and then turns back to a boy.
One of the things people had me watch was Bridge on the River Kwai, which is from like 1951 or something. It's soldiers in a prison camp back when like men were men. To raise morale, a bunch of them put on dresses and did like a funny little cabaret. It used to be funny. Now it's a human right.
That's the thing I was gonna say. So if Ranma 1/2 comes up on one of your shows, bear in mind that when Rumiko Takahashi wrote it, she had the trans thing was not at all part of it. It was essentially because Ranma hated the fact that he turned to a girl because he thought of himself as a boy. So it's literally like the opposite of that. And it was only done for comedy and also to show boobs because there's a lot of fan service in it. But and if you saw boobs on a girl that's actually got a boy inside of him that doesn't want to be a girl, then it's just even funnier. So
Your Name and Suzume, both so freaking beautiful. That studio's insane. But yeah, Your Name's a body swapping story. A boy and a girl swap. Every morning he wakes up as the girl, he immediately goes like this. I mean, but it's true. That's what would happen.
Yeah, that's right. No, that's right. But okay, anyway, I guess we should wrap it up here because you got to set up for your next show, right? I got any more super chats or super childs? No. Well, thank you guys for coming on the show and hanging out with me. Thank you so much, Erwin, for joining me on the show. I'd like to talk more about like writing and stuff. Maybe we can do another time, or I can get you on sometime in the future. So if you would be down. Okay, will do.
Call my agent.
All right. Wait, aren't you your own agent?
Shut up, man. I do a different voice at least when I'm pretending to be my agent.
All right. Well, thanks guys for coming on the show. If you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave me a comment. Let me know what you guys think about what we talked about in the show today. And also the music that you've been listening to in the background while we were chatting is the soundtrack from the game, The Great Rebellion, which is one of the most base games on...
I love that game. It was so good.
Yeah.
And then after I played it, I didn't know Discord had like DMs, and I finally looked through my DMs, and the creator was like, "Hey, here's a code. Can I come on your stream?" And I'm like, "Ah."
Did you have him on?
No,
because I had him on my show. Cult Games. Oh, dude, we have mute. I know people. I know it is. We know people that like we both know the same person. It's kind of like there's this girl. She used to make YouTube content named Brittany Pettibone. She married a guy named Martin Sellner. You know who Martin Sellner is? And he started.
I just keep thinking about how Pettibone or whatever is a really. I feel so bad for any girl whose last name has bone in it.
Well, she took his name. So her name is Brittany Sellner now. But Martin Sellner used to be part of this like movement called Identity Europa or something, and he was always in trouble with the government.
It's the identitarian people.
Well, they were kind of identitarian, yeah, I think so. I don't know, but these guys, the Cult Games guys, they're friends with him. They were like in his wedding. So like they're pretty super based. And also, again, reference in the game, there is a priest named Seraphim. He's one of the NPCs you rescue, Orthodox monk, Father Seraphim Rose. You should look up his writings because he predicted everything that's happening right now in his writings. And he was trying to like move people away from like the hippie movement of the 1960s. That's
where it all went wrong. That's where the culture war. That's when they took over.
Oh yeah, I've been looking into the Charles Manson stuff too. There's some interesting things.
How many of the musicians' dads were in the military and such?
Yeah, right. The guy from the Beach Boys, I forget his name, but yeah, it's crazy stuff. But anyway, thank you guys so much for coming on the show. Please share this video, and we will talk to you guys in the next one. Long live Vivian.
With the glass ceiling broken, all the oppressed groups shall prosper, especially the most oppressed group of all, gamers.
I want people in the industry to be a little bit louder about people being mean to other people, and maybe say it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Maybe say we don't want you around if you're going to be a cunt.
Yeah.
And hateful. And that the games industry is diverse naturally. Not because anyone's making them be diverse. Because the world is diverse, you stupid motherfucker. And if you have a problem with that, come fight me. Physically. Bitch.
Has anyone taken you up on that yet?
No, because they're all pussies.
Yep.
Down here, salt is a way of life.
Obviously, the environment down here is all salt. The ceiling's salt, the floor is salt, the walls are salt, and to an extent, the air is salt. And you breathe that in, and you can constantly taste the salt.